Hi, my name is Shmuel Gonzales. I'm an activist, historian, and community organizer from Southern California. Many of you might know me as the author of the Barrio Boychik blog, which is dedicated to preserving our local heritage of civil rights activism, with a special focus on the historical and present intersection of Jewish and Latino civil rights organizing. As a Mexican American of Jewish faith, I also proudly serve as a teacher of Jewish education and leader in sacred Hebrew ritual, serving Southeast Los Angeles and North Orange County. Today I will be presenting to you some unique archival footage I took at a counter-protest of the America First rally, an anti-immigrant, anti-refugee rally organized by the so-called alt-right at Main Beach in Laguna Beach, California on Sunday, August 20th, 2017, where I was ultimately arrested. On this day I was in attendance to stand with local friends and business people as they stood against hate. Among them, my good friend and father figure to me, Irv Weiser, whose family came to this country as refugees following the Holocaust. I came to stand shoulder to shoulder with him as he protested against this nationalistic hate rhetoric. There were just a few dozen anti-immigrant refugee protesters that day, a mixed-race group of far-right extremists that noticeably even had neo-Nazis and white supremacists participating in their event, while there were several hundred counter-protesters in attendance. After the right-wing protest group dwindled, they started making incursions into the counter-protest to get in people's faces and agitate the crowd. They caused some minor scuffles and were shooed back by the police. While documenting the event on video, I followed the right-wing group back. By this time, the right-wing protesters on the other end were encircled and engaging a crowd. I engaged the right-wing protesters in rhetoric, angering them several times with just verbal rebuttals, while also taking video of the protest. In this video, you will see the presentation in which they call illegal immigrants and refugees drug dealers, rapists, and murderers. I will be present standing with Irv Weiser behind me, and to my right shoulder would be the local news media, including Fox and Latino news outlet Estrella TV. After the further dwindled group begins to repeat their presentation, I again begin to engage their rhetoric, speaking truth to hate, engaging these extremists to the point of agitation. As I was still documenting this event on video with the camera running, I went in for a close-up shot as we argued, and one of them quickly approached and hit my hand, sending my camera flying. At this point, I was immediately arrested by 5 officers in riot gear from the Laguna Beach Police Department. I was arrested instead of these nationalist extremists who assaulted me. And that was just the beginning of a long ordeal. I would be arrested, taken to Central Jail, where I'd be subjected to racist and anti-Semitic treatment by the jailer. We're going to be talking more about that after the presentation of the video from this protest. What is most important to note is that I have an upcoming court date set for next week, Monday, September 18, 2017 at 8:30 a.m. at Harbor Justice Center in Laguna Beach, California. At that time, I will be arraigned for the false charges of resisting arrest. For these reasons, I will now release this video at this time. First, in order to prove my innocence, and second, to start an honest conversation about the realities being faced today by progressives in the front lines of our current anti-fascist resistance. So without further ado, the protest video. Over there. That's the Trump side over there. Police, along with other police coming in. On our way in, they were actually calling in the police from local areas, including Fullerton was actually rolling in as
as we were coming. Okay, let's see how to cross to get over. We can do it over there at Ocean. A guy was removed from his car in order for them to be able to check. They're taking every precaution here. I'm including the bomb squad being out for any cars that are placed where they don't belong. They're checking to make sure they don't have a bomb. So over there, the police are dividing the two groups with mounted police, and they've come over to this area. They're also limiting people, from going off, into the rest of the beach area, and limiting it just to this marked area. And so far, the counter-protesters already appear to outnumber the Trump supporters that are here. We'll go take a closer look in a bit. And as you can see, here are the mounted police here. Just beyond them, you can see over there that is where the Trump supporters are organized.
My dad is very sarcastic.
So, this guy was just talking to, I stopped the video because he says, "Oh, thank God, the Jews showed up." And the Jew from Laguna, who was actually born in Boyle Heights, and is out here to show support. He was actually over on the Trump side, and he said that there was very few supporters that was over there in comparison because of them keeping them apart, and actually that a few arguments started with people over on the other end, and the police just separated them in order to stop anything from erupting here. So
I'm going to take a break for about 5 minutes. Number one, please get my bottle.
but again, the number of counter-protesters easily outnumbers the amount of Trump supporters that have come out today.
Se puede.
just walked in. They've come to the front in between the dividing between the two groups at the standoff line with the sheriffs. And they're bearing prophetic witness to the people's resistance to white supremacy and hate.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
Over here, Black Lives Matter.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
Yeah, so you're fucking bitch on his head.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
We have the Rabbanim from the area out showing support as well. Because the Jewish community here is not going to deal with this hate either. We're going to confront it. Baruch Hashem. Sharps are here, the skinheads against racial prejudice. Antifa over here. Black Lives Matter over there. Got everyone, including people who are just to chill and show resistance through music and spirit. Got everything here, people.
Get the fuck out!
So the Trump supporters came over to the other side and were quickly ran out.
Just like the Nazis!
You're not even afraid to show your yeah.
I know.
You're showing your face. Yeah, okay.
This is an intel movie.
So you have some Neanderthals with InfoWars.
Your house.
With InfoWars. These fucking fools. InfoWars t-shirts. Like, you know, I mean, you want to talk about inbred philosophy for news, you know.
How's it going? You'd expect me to be here, didn't you? Yeah. Hey, guess what? You know what I'm protesting? I'm doing independent. I'm not taking either side. I'm remaining independent. You still work at Sprouts? Okay, because if you did, you should tell them. Because they said all this nasty things about me, the managers, but they can't say anything nasty about this.
We're gonna sell your part in your house. Feel significant.
So here's a dividing line between the groups, and they're doing a pretty good job of, again, keeping groups separated. When things become too heated, the authorities intervene and separate people. But so far it's been well managed, well organized. But this is basically your group of Trump supporters right here. As you see, a very limited number in comparison to the huge, massive resistance that is being shown on the other side. Those who are opposing hate. As you see, these officers right here are from Irvine.
Wow. Look at everything you're wearing is from China. Everything. Look at your underwear you're wearing is from China. The pants you're wearing is from China. Look at those sunglasses you're wearing. I think your brain is made in China too. Yeah, I think your brain is made in China. You're trying to be American like everything. Look at you. You're made in China. Look at you. Look at your necklace. Look at everything. Your socks are made in China.
Keep the sidewalk moving!
Protect, like, all of the ground.
Even though we're several hours into it, the crowd here is still really small as the day turns to night. But you can hear the sound of the resistance from here. So we're standing in the middle of the group of Trump supporters being surrounded by the police. These are the guys who went over to the other side. We're just removed, actually, by the authorities for crossing over into the other side.
We don't got a valid argument. Just say stupid stuff. Criminals are bad men. United States of America. We don't like this country, then why are you here? How about China? You know what? They don't have rights like the United States of America. Why do you compare it to China? This is a country we have values. And we have a standard of living far surpasses China and all of the rest of the world, the third world, the world that's under communist oppression. You are living in the land of the free. Enjoy it because it's the last one you'll see. If we don't stick up for this country, freedom of speech, rights, then we'll have nothing. There'll be nowhere to go. Nowhere left to go. You will be conquered, stupid dumb. You have rights? So we have common ground. You say right? You don't like China. Make China great again.
What are you talking about China? We were saying we all want Chinese. That's
Make China great again. Everything.
Oh boy, let's make China great again, guys. It's a product.
Right there. That's what
This man can speak in complete sentences.
Oh yeah, you don't love China.
Oh, he went to the Lord College.
I love China. Make China great again. China, 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 China. China, 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 China.
He's working with deals. He's strengthening our military. He goes on and going on. He's correcting the VA. I'm a veteran. They have a corrupt VA, which is very polarizing in terms of the culture. We weren't allowed to use fire. Now he's going to hold VA accountable.
Right?
Here for the vigil. Attention, every supporter here for the vigil. We're going to line up right here. We're going to do a demonstration. We need like 25 people lined up right here, please. Thank you.
Hey, don't be surprised that they're getting at the kids. Let me tell you, the number one spread of white supremacy around here is through the gangs in the area who control the crystal meth, you know, the whole crystal meth trade in the area. And you know what? They start off with the kids real early by, you know, trying to show, you know, some type of bravado in order to try to get disaffected kids into their neighborhood. These fuckers are all pissed off because 15-20 years ago, you know, 15-20 years ago, white flight came to Orange County. And you know what? What happens is that these are the sorry bastards that weren't able to go with white flight to South County, to Pomona Valley and everywhere else. And you know what? They're pissed off now because they think that other people took over their neighborhoods. How is that when these people are still paying rent to their old neighbors, you know, who used to be there? These are just fucking pissed off people that really didn't think about, you know, what urban change is like, and are blaming other people that other people are taking over the neighborhoods. Nah, it's not anything like that. But that's how nationalism works. You know, that's how it works, man. I mean, call it what it is. These are a bunch of people who, you know, are disaffected because they came, you know, out of prison most of the time with all kinds of racist ideas. Call it what it is. Call it what it is. We're all so mad. Yeah. They have such fragile lives that someone can take it away from them. They have such out of control of their own existence that, you know, someone else can take their life away from them.
Studies show that there is less criminal activity in the illegal immigrant community than in the general population. There have been several studies that actually show that already, except if you consider crossing the border illegally as a crime.
I mean, these people, but these people want to call us rapists and everything else, you know.
But if you exclude that it's not about the
This is the face of disgruntled people because they can't take responsibility for their own lives. Look at them, people. Look at them. This is what you have right here. People who are so mad because they can't take responsibility for their own lives. Look at how fragile these people are, that they think that someone else can take their own life and self-determination away. You know, it's amazing, amazing, amazing.
My grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, my two parents in concentration camps. Why did you forget that? Why did you forget that?
Yeah, no, as this, you know, this is just Americanism, and it is relevant. It is relevant that his family are Holocaust survivors. You know why? Because America didn't let in the refugees when they were supposed to. We had the opportunity for years. We had the property for years, and we didn't let them in. And you know how a lot of our families came here? As illegal immigrants. You know why? Because you guys were too cowards to actually let people in when fascism raised its head in Europe. Cowards. Cowards, and you want to come out like American heroes now. And now you want to come out like American heroes now. Be realistic.
And their parents and their family is here tonight.
What are you talking about? This is a visual. That's it. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Don't be so ignorant.
You just want to make an impression so that young people can be drawn over to your side who are just blind. That's what it is. You guys should be counted as child predators. You guys should be counted as child predators. Nationalism is a sick, ugly thing, people. We went to war against nationalism. We went to war against nationalism for a reason, people. That's what the 20th century was about. That's what the 20th century was about, people.
Tell it to the parents you lost. Tell it to the parents you lost somebody, you fool.
Hey, this community is overrun mostly by white supremacist gangs that mostly control the crystal meth trade in this area, and you guys don't have any problem with them. You guys don't address any of that, do you? Who's really bringing down our communities around here? Who's really bringing down the community? Absolutely. You know why? Because when you make it out that a certain race is guilty of doing certain violence and illegal acts, you know what? You guys have a problem. You guys have a real problem. You guys have a real problem.
We're having a vigil. We're having a vigil for people that were murdered.
We're having a vigil here, gentlemen. Why don't you come out now when we
No, just to use other people's memory. Just to use other people's memory so cynically. To use other people's memory so cynically. To use other people's memory so cynically.
You've been here every single month. Where have you been?
Just to use people's memory so sickly. That's so sad.
Where have you been?
That's so
Where have you
sad.
been?
Why don't you try building something in memory to people? Why don't you try building something in memory to people? No, I don't need to be on TV. I stand in the community with the people.
You haven't been here one time, sir. Not once.
So if you're,
Let me tell you something. We're here now, and we're more than you. We're more than you because you're a dying philosophy. You're a dying philosophy. You're a dying philosophy. That's why this is what you're doing. That's why you're having your little temper tantrum, because you're a dying philosophy of racism and nationalism. No, just because you know your philosophy is dying.
everybody should be a proud American.
I am a proud American, and you know what? We fought against people like this. Do you know what? Here in this area, people were proud enough to stand up against racists. That's how we got rid of the KKK in this county. That's how we got rid of every single one of these white nationalist organizations. And that's what you do when you start standing with the white supremacists in chief. That's what you're standing with. 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 Let me tell you something.
Who is racist here? Who is racist here?
When you start characterizing people, especially Latinos, especially Latino immigrants.
Yo soy Latino.
Yeah, and unfortunately we have a lot of self-hating people who also, unfortunately, Latinos, they don't stand up for a whole lot sometimes because they have their own racist, nationalistic issues. We need to get beyond that. We need to get beyond that. No. I'm here to stand with everyone. Then go home. Then go home. Then go home.
Racist, go home.
Then go home.
Racist, go home.
Stop.
He didn't touch it. They have no cause. They have no cause to touch nobody.
Give the police their space, guys. Thank you. Thank you for doing your job, guys.
Officer, I was with him. He did nothing. He touched nobody. He touched nobody. He's with me. He touched nobody, officer.
I'm not sure exactly what happened.
May I go join him?
No. Go around and
How do we get out?
Illegal aliens not welcome here. No hate, no fear. Illegal aliens not welcome here.
It's Crystal Cruz, who was with America First ralliers. Crystal.
That is a wrap for the rally. Laguna Beach back to business as usual. Officers told everyone to go home, and within 10 minutes they all left and 3 people were arrested.
That's to their job.
One man handcuffed, taken away by police. A second man in a helmet also taken away by officers.
Right?
I think you're a refugee ancestor. That's why I smell Jack on you.
Voices loud, opinions strong.
If they're not helping America out, instead of asking for hand-me-downs and expect us to pay for every thing that they expect for them to, now get a job, do themselves.
A drone in the air and police on the ground looked over the America First rally in Laguna Beach to make sure tense moments like this didn't rise to anything more.
So now we're back to talk about what transpired from the moment my video footage ends. As you can see from the video and pictures presented from media sources, I was taken into custody by 5 Laguna Beach police officers in riot gear. It was immediately after my camera was struck, even before I had a chance to respond or react, that I was taken into custody by these officers. Me, the Mexican-American kid in the yarmulke that got attacked, was arrested by the police and was sent to jail instead of my attackers. Now, before we go on, I want to make this point clear. These so-called alt-right Trump supporters are confederates of white supremacists and fascists, period. These people's goal is incitement under the guise of legitimate political protest and the protection that it is granted. Oh yeah, they were there just to engage in healthy political discourse. So that's why they brought out these fine gentlemen they knew from their local white supremacist prison gangs. Look how they love to push forward their token minorities, like this wannabe white supremacist here, Colombian-born fascist who goes by the fake name Johnny Benitez, who organized these protests. These groups scream with indignation about being equated to white supremacists while holding banners alongside people with iron cross tattoos and swastikas. Guys that you can smell the whiskey and the effects of the methamphetamines on their breath as they spew their vitriol. These are just everyday white thugs. Let's call it what it is. Like these idiots here, who insist that they aren't white supremacists, that the racist prison gang created tattoos that they're sporting are just symbols of their individualism. And that is what pisses them off more than anything. Not just that I destroy them when it comes to policy. It's that I destroy their claim that all the drugs, gangs, and violence is brought into the neighborhoods by immigrants and refugees. Instead, I point the finger right back at them. And that is what really set them off the most. I pointed out their dishonesty and hypocrisy. And that is what instigated them to try to shut me up and shut me down. They hit at my camera and I was immediately arrested. Though it should be noted that according to observers, 5 police officers in riot gear were already heading my direction in a single line when this incident took place. Then they extracted me military style from the crowd. I'm still stunned by the pictures of my small little frame being hauled away from the crowd with such overwhelming force, like I'm somehow such a fierce threat. As I was being dragged from the crowd, the media began to ask me questions, such as Australia TV, who asked me, "We got it on camera, why did they hit you?" My response being, they attacked me for speaking truth to hate. They hit me because they couldn't handle my responses. The media began to ask me more questions about my motivation for counter-protest, at which time I began to passionately speak about the history of American Jews fighting fascism here in California, how we have historically had to fight against the Ku Klux Klan, American Nazism, and all forms of nationalism, here in our very own communities. Yes, I had a lot of emotions cycling through me in the moments after being arrested. Though as you see, at no time did I ever resist arrest. Again, I'm still stunned by the pictures of me being taken away from the protests with such display of force. The arresting officer, Officer Bammer of Laguna Beach Police Department, informed me that I was being cited and released. He said I was being charged with CPC 148A1, resisting arrest, for not following police instructions, loosely interpreted to mean that I was doing something he didn't want me to do. I informed him that I did not hear any order to disperse or receive any verbal instructions. I also insisted that I did not in any way threaten anyone, but had been struck at myself, though the officer contended that the right-wing protester had only pointed in my direction when the camera went flying. When I was taken into custody sometime around 7:30 p.m., I was informed that I would be ticketed and released within a couple hours. I was then taken to another site where I was held for some time. While in custody, I was repeatedly asked throughout the night whether I was the leader of the counter-protest, to which I responded I was not. But the police then went through my wallet and identified me as a Jewish religious figure, an assistant rabbi for my area, and kept asking berating questions about my fitness of character as a religious leader. They also went through my professional business contacts, whose cards were found in my wallet, asking accusatory questions about them. I was then held in an Orange County Sheriff's bus in a small cage and in handcuffs for the next 4 to 5 hours, joined only by one other person after the first few hours. We were ultimately transported sometime after midnight to the Orange County Sheriff's Central Jail in Santa Ana. The conditions of the jail cells were pretty gross. There were several people passed out on the floor, and there were even bloody gauze left all over the floor. There were 8 people, including myself, being kept in this holding cell, though nothing that night was as grotesque as the racism and anti-Semitism I was subjected to while in custody at the jail. After several hours, I was taken to be fingerprinted by a middle-aged white jailer, at which time the following verbal incident took place. The officer says to me, "So you're the leader of the protest out there, you fucking minorities, all having a temper tantrum because you can't have Hillary as president. You guys are just out there to hate at white people." Me responding, "No, I was just in attendance to stand with some families of Holocaust survivors as they protest. Why would I hate white people? Do you believe that Jews somehow hate white people?" To which the officer responds, "Oh, I'm sure many do. You minorities hate America so damn much." To which I respond, "Why would we hate America? This is the freest country we've ever been in." To which the officer responds, "No, it's not free anymore." To which, in total astonishment, I respond, "Really? I don't know about that because my ancestors suffered terribly in so many other places in the world. This is the most free and safe place we've ever been. That is why this country and our values are so worth defending." To which the officer responds with this, "So that's what it comes down to. Some white people killed your Jew family members somewhere, and now you hate all white people. You are the leader of a hate organization, standing with Antifa and Black Lives Matters. You're standing and defending cop killers. You're just as bad as them." I declined to engage this officer in unnecessary direct conversation after that, though other sheriffs in the jail continued to try to engage me in similar conversations. Not always as racially charged, but still accusatory of me being the leader of the protest and of a hate organization, standing shoulder to shoulder with anarchists and cop killers. The other sheriffs in the jail continued to try to engage me in such conversations up until the very last minute I was released, some 14 hours after being taken into custody. After a long night, I was released around 9:30 a.m. from Central Jail without bail. I was given my citation and a court date scheduled for arraignment at Harbor Justice Center in Newport Beach on Monday, September 18, 2017 at 8:30 a.m. I have retained an attorney who will be defending me in court on that day. And as so many of you, dear friends and allies, have been asking, yes, I would be honored for you to come out and support me on my court date. It is our hope that the charges will not be pursued by the district attorney and that the charges for resisting arrest will be completely dismissed. Now, at this time, I want to thank everyone who has been there for me throughout this entire ordeal. First, Robert Robertson and Irv Weiser for being there for me every minute of the way throughout all of this. I must especially thank my dear friend David Herrera for not only being up all night drumming up the Free Shmuel Gonzales campaign online while I was in jail. He has also helped me get the best legal representation in town. You're a total mensch. I also want to thank my amazing activist attorney, Jaime Gutierrez, el luchador de pueblo. And I also want to thank all of you who have been lending me your strength and inspiration. Now I want to dedicate my resistance to the inspiration of one of my dearest friends. As many of you know, I'm not just an activist. I am a Los Angeles community historian dedicated to preserving and maintaining our local social justice tradition and anti-fascist heritage. My inspiration has come from the oral histories of those who have come before me, from my much older friends who have handed down their experiences in protest and know-how in organizing. Today I want to dedicate my resistance to my 87-year-old friend, Don Hodes, who grew up in my neighborhood of Boyle Heights, East Los Angeles. His parents were Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe who came to the United States as illegal immigrants by way of Canada before the start of World War II, while much of the rest of his extended family remained trapped behind in Europe. On November 22nd, 1938, when he was just 8 years old at the time, he marched in the anti-Nazi parade in Boyle Heights, protesting the savage treatment of Jews by the Nazi German government, and also the threatening rise of American Nazism that was spreading hate and plotting violence from its downtown Los Angeles headquarters. Don Hodes marched with candles and signs demanding the admittance of Jews fleeing the Nazi savagery in Europe, which had been barred entrance to the United States and every other country in the world prior to the Holocaust, under the guise of them being racially undesirable and even dangerous and murderous villains. They were being denied entrance as refugees by our own government. As he marched with people carrying signs declaring that Nazism and fascism have no place in civilization, he also recalls singing a song, "A tisket, a tasket will bury Hitler in a basket." This is the type of example I am proud to take after. I am the person I am today because I was privileged to learn our local heritage from people like Don Hodes and Irv Weiser. People like this who are father figures to me. I'm so proud to take their charge to hold the line of our local anti-fascist heritage in my generation. In closing, I want to give a word of warning to my fellow activists. Be careful out there. It is very important that people make sure to be careful to not be targeted to become the victims of protest-related violence. The sad reality is this, that when push comes to shove, the authorities are prone to seeing the liberals and minorities as the aggressor, as my arrest so sadly demonstrates. We'll talk a little bit more of this in the future, but right now we're just gearing up for my court date, so I'll see you all on September 18th. Until then, Shalom Chaverim.